leaders to switch sides and enter the service of Alexander III, who took his daughter, Barzine, as a mate. Athena, an Olympian goddess worshipped for her military qualities by the kings of Macedon, notably Alexander III. Baal-Hamon, the chief god of the Semites of western Syria, and also the god of the mountain beside which the battle of Issus was fought, and thus for Alexander III, a local form of Zeus. Barzine, the daughter of Artabazus, who became Alexander III's mate when captured after the battle of Issus. She bore Alexander a son, Heracles. Bessus, or Artakshasa, a Persian noble who was Darius III's governor of Bactria, a post establishing him as heir to the Persian throne. After Darius's death, he took the royal name Artakshasa. Calanus, the most prominent of the Indian religious leaders who joined the entourage of Alexander III. Evidently a Jain, he committed suicide during the army's return from India. Cassander, the son of Antipater, who joined Alexander III in Babylon in the months before Alexander's death, and who established himself as his father's successor in Macedon in part by killing Olympias and Heracles, Alexander's son, by Barzine. Charis, steward and master of ceremonies for Alexander III, and the author of memoirs of court life. Cletus, surnamed the Black, a Macedonian cavalry commander assigned by Alexander III to be the first Macedonian governor of Bactria. Alexander murdered him following a quarrel at a drinking party. Caenis, a veteran of the wars of Philip II, he served first as a leading infantry commander and later as a commander of cavalry and independent detachments. He led the faction of generals who compelled Alexander III to abandon the conquest of India and return to Babylon. Craterus, a veteran of the wars of Philip II, he served as a leading infantry commander and later replaced Parmenio as the virtual second in command of the army. He died shortly after the death of Alexander III and thus did not become one of Alexander's successors. Cyrus the Great, ruler of Anshan, a small Persian kingdom, who made himself ruler of Iranian Central Asia and then of the entire Near East, save for Egypt. Admired by many Greek writers, he offered a role model to Alexander III. Darius III, perhaps ne Kodomanus, king of the Persian Empire at the time of the Macedonian invasion, but of dubious ancestry since he was only a collateral descendant of Cyrus the Great. Demosthenes, the most famous of Greek orators, also an outstanding opponent of both Philip II and Alexander III, and convicted of taking bribes from Alexander's fugitive treasurer, Harpalus. Diades, Alexander III's leading engineer, a Thessalian who wrote a book on siege warfare describing innovations such as towers on wheels and wall drills. Dionysus, an Olympian god important to Alexander III as the patron god of Thebes, which Alexander sacked, and as a god reportedly worshipped in India, where Alexander hoped to establish himself as ruler under Dionysus's sponsorship. Eumenes, the most important Greek companion of Alexander III, whom he served as secretary and to whom he lent money in India. After Alexander's death, he was briefly one of his successors, only to be defeated by Antigonus. Harpalus, a childhood friend of Alexander III, who became treasurer of the empire, eventually residing in Babylon. He was the first companion known to have deserted Alexander, fleeing to Athens in an unsuccessful attempt to establish himself in Greece. Hephaestion, a childhood friend of Alexander III, becoming his lover and later a top administrator and also commander of the companion cavalry. His death in Ecbatana, less than a year before Alexander's own death, marked the beginning of the king's final fatal decline. Heracles, son of Alexander III, the son of Alexander by Barzine, he took no part in politics until the Macedonian general, Polyperchon, persuaded him to try to become king of Macedon, and then betrayed him.